Chaplain Dillard initiates creating and posting these videos. Their contents and YouTube's linked videos do not necessarily reflect specific beliefs, practices, requirements, or endorsements of the Department of Defense, its subordinate organizations, or other groups with which Chaplain Dillard is affiliated.
Welcome back. This video is one in a series of many sub-series on spiritual resilience. This particular video is on moral leadership training or moral leadership development. Now, what is that exactly and what's the purpose of it? This video introduces a specific practical exercise that I've created to support the Secretary of the Army's priorities, which are both task-oriented and people-oriented. The exercise is primarily for first-line supervisors and middle managers, but can benefit anyone in a position of leadership. This is to equip and encourage anyone in a position of leadership, a supervisor, a parent, a mentor, any position for which you have responsibility over others. This is an Army program per Army Regulation 350-1, the responsibility for which is the Chief of Chaplains. And Army Regulation 165-1 reminds us too that it is a commander's program to help build their individuals and their units. What are the particular needs and benefits of moral leadership training with any group? Well, let's take a look at some examples. There is always a need for moral leadership training when effective leadership is unusually challenged because of the following reasons. Any one of these. The mission has an imbalance for task orientation or people orientation. There are separations of authority, requirements, and resourcing. Some internal projects compete with senior leaders' priorities. There are specific tensions between focus on near-term versus far future. There is a high turnover of some populations and none for other populations. There are significant geographic distances between seniors and subordinates. Multiculturalism is a daily reality. Military, civilian, gender, ethnic, religious, you name it. There are many types of cultures. Many supervisors have little to no training in leadership. A high operational tempo leaves little time for leadership training. Maybe you've been in an organization or a group or a family just like that. What are some of the benefits to moral leadership training? The vignettes that I will propose here are written to elicit honest and non-threatening discussions of very real challenges. The practical exercises facilitate experiential understanding of leadership processes, good and bad, and the working lunch format communicates practical care and a safe environment. And the chaplain's training medallion outlines key processes and is large enough to serve as a desktop prompt for leaders. So, how are we supposed to proceed? I believe that's by equipping and encouraging visionary leadership, which I'll define for you in a moment. I've developed a training medallion, and on one side of that training medallion is a reference to a proverb that says, "Do not withhold good from those to whom it is due, when it is in your power to do it. Do not say to your neighbor, 'Go and come again, tomorrow I will give it,' when in fact you will have it with you to give today." On one specific side of the medallion are 7 leadership processes that I'll flash up on the screen for you right now. You can pause the video to see these in more detail if you'd like. First, vision. Specifically, where are we going to go as a group? Connection, building understanding, respect, and trust with others on the team. Buy-in, getting them to believe in and want to fulfill the vision. Opportunity, providing specific venues for them to fulfill the vision. Resourcing, whatever they need to accomplish it. Results, measurable data points related to the vision. And lastly, follow-up, that we reconnect, evaluate, and hone the vision in ways that will be honorable and most helpful to the group. Now, you've probably seen a little bit of the board here. I'm going to tell you what this is specifically. Moral leadership for the Army is at least 2 things: mission first and people always. And we can illustrate that mission first and people always on an XY axis of 2 morals. Authority and structure, or AS, and intimacy and relationship, or IR. This is mission. It's task orientation from one extreme of we do it my way or the highway, like a drill sergeant, to another extreme of whatever dude, like a beach bum. This is people orientation. Again, from one extreme, get out of my face, that's your Lone Ranger,
or together forever, your best friend, whether you want them to be your best friend or not. Now, I'm proposing this like a court sport of leadership. When we play from the middle a balance of task orientation and people orientation, then we're able to surge to any corners as we might need to. And there are always times that we may need to surge. But the reason it's green and amber and red as you move away from the center is because it's difficult to sustain it if you stay in one corner for a long time. If I love to play in any one corner, I'm less able to get to the others as I need to. So we may need to surge, but we return generally to somewhere in the middle. That makes sense for efficiency. Also makes sense for personality types.
Now, here's how we're going to play. Each person is going to choose from about 100 a game piece that they believe best represents them, and in just a few seconds give a couple of descriptive words as to why that represents them, truly. Not in fantasy land, but actually represents them. Then they're going to choose a vignette that we will discuss together. You can pause the video if you'd like and see that I have at least 4 vignettes here. Each one represents a corner quadrant that we may need to surge toward that corner to live out this vignette effectively. Then after I've read the vignette and everybody understands the vision, what we're shooting for according to my proposal as the one who's playing the leader of the group, then each person will place their piece somewhere on the board. Let's say that I describe myself as a German Shepherd here because it's both loyal and aggressive, and I like more relationship, but dogs are fairly laid back and I want a little less authority and structure, so I place it down here. Somebody else chooses a trumpet because they believe that it helps bring people together, but they also kind of like to stand out. They like more relationship as well, but musicians typically like more structure, and so they place themselves up here. Somebody else may choose an astronaut because they like to be a pioneer. They like to work alone, but they're fairly daring and they know they need structure. So they're less relationship but more structure. They might put themselves maybe somewhere out here. Varies person to person. Now, if you're watching this video, it is in my hopes that you will invite me to provide training for you at your location, and this would be an example of one of the scenarios that we would discuss. Who's running this show? Your band has contracted with a major record label about 15 years ago, and most members are still originals. As long as the money keeps coming in, the company gives fairly little guidance. But over the years, leadership issues in the band have lessened their passion and focus. One lead singer seeks consensus in almost everything they do, while the other lead singer is highly directive. And whenever one is out, the other one steps in. The manager is very well organized, but they telework from the company. All the musicians are highly talented. As the band's popularity has grown, however, leadership issues have intensified. The directive singer has written a song, is pushing their playlist on the band, and has gathered somewhat of a small following. The manager has also talked with the directive singer only and announced that the summer schedule is going to be 5 days a week with no visitors on tour in order to maximize the band's focus, and a guitarist has filed a complaint with the musicians union, which has taken a lot of time from the band and the manager. The band is still playing well, but they're hardly talking.
Now, this is kind of where we placed ourselves in personality types.
Now, based on this vision, people are going to move where they would realistically see themselves and explain why they moved that way.
So I'm calling as the leader, I'm the German Shepherd here, that's a fair amount of structure, and I'm saying we are going to be together. It's pretty intense, so I'm going to put it up here in the border of the red.
Ironic that somebody chose a trumpet player here. Let's say that that they like that idea. They're not real big on no visitors. They'd like a little more relationship than that. So maybe they want to be up here, more relationship with their family or visitors.
The astronaut, he's not going for that so much. He says, hey, don't tell me what to do. So they want less structure and they want less relationship, maybe even more to the other side.
So that would be the initial step of people placing themselves on the board because of the vision. The second step is connection. Let's say that as the leader, a few weeks have gone by, and the only thing that I'm really doing to establish connection with the band, and by the way, I'm the directive singer. That's who I am. One of the many leaders, which is one of the problems. They have many leaders. That the only thing I've done is really taken role as to who's showing up for rehearsals, and nobody's missing actual gigs. And that's all I've done to establish connection. Well, my musician, he's still with me because he's a single guy. He's not moved. But the astronaut is really getting kind of ticked off. He wants even less structure, and he wants to be left alone even more. The third step is buy-in. Now, buy-in we should measure and assess all the time anyway. These steps are somewhat sequential, but they're also simultaneous. But they are logical to state them in this way. So let's say that I take a look at the buy-in, and most of the band, if I had more players, I'd have more people. It looks like most of the band is here, and so I assume that guy has a problem. I really have buy-in for most, so I don't change anything. The next step is opportunity. We know that the manager and the directive singer have collaborated to establish the tour schedule, but let's say that some changes had to be made because of weather and so forth, but the directive singer, which is myself and the manager, are still only talking among each other or with each other, and we are the ones who decide and establish the new cities that will replace the others because of weather and some other things, and we don't talk to anybody else in how to determine those opportunities. Well, my musician is not down with that so much because he'd already made some plans, and he liked the idea of having a little more participation. He's moving a little more toward less relationship because he's not enjoying the way I'm doing it, and he also wants a little less structure to be able to have some more freedom to say so. And the astronaut, even more so, is really not digging my style of leadership, so to speak. The next step is resourcing. Let's say that I finally see that people are starting to not get along, but I'm not sure what it is, and I provide a bus. Before we had been convoying to try to save some money, but I provide a bus because in my mind I think I'm going to bring everybody together, when in fact it makes things even worse. The astronaut is ready to leave the band. For him, he explains that it's bad enough to have to be together all the time with no visitors. Now you're going to make me sit on a bus with you? I don't even like you. The musician also, he still wants relationship, but not so much with me. And again, he wants less structure. He wants to be able to say how this is going to happen. So he's moved down a little bit. Now let's say another month goes by. The next step is resources. I've got to have data points, measurable data points, to see how we're actually doing. And I notice that our attendance at the concerts has fallen somewhat because the quality of our musicianship has fallen because our relationships are fallen. I don't want to admit that to myself, but I can't deny it. A lot of time has passed, and there does seem to be a trend. Let's say one of the adjustments I make in following on with them is I have a band meeting, and I say, hey, guys, I've noticed we're not doing so well. I'm catching a lot of negative vibes toward me. I want to hear what you think we need to change in order to get the band doing better in our relationships with each other, because it seems to be affecting our music. We're still playing well, but we're not excellent, and it's starting to reflect itself in attendance at the concerts. And I really take in what they say. I go back to a convoy, but I give people, based on their feedback, I give a little stipend for travel, as long as they show up on time for rehearsals, and I'm willing to let them have a visitor, as long as it's not during practice and they don't come backstage, but they can have family and friends as long as we show it doesn't interfere with the rehearsals or the concerts. Now, based on that, I have moved a little bit. I'm still fairly relational, not quite as much, still a fair amount of structure, but I'm in the amber here. Somebody's got to be in charge, and that's just the way I like it. The less directive singer is kind of laid back, isn't saying anything. So my astronaut He's willing to take a little more structure and a little more relationship. He's still not quite where I am. The trumpet player, same way, still wants a balance of relationship and structure, but a little bit more structure. So we're more together. And then the cycle repeats. I go back and I rehome the vision again, and this is continual until it seems that we're as good as we can be in a way that is both honorable and helpful to the group in this particular scenario. Then after we finish playing the game, everybody gives their lessons learned for potential applications in their leadership, not somebody else's leadership, but what they learned about themselves, how they would have led, how they saw leadership decisions impacting the group, and how that can be applied in their family, in their work team, in their neighborhood, etc., etc. So I think you can see this provides opportunity for immediate feedback and experiential learning of what it's like to need a balance of task orientation and people orientation according to the individual scenario, and it enables us to speak difficult topics into the room and discuss them in a safe way that we can make some progress in applying those to where we work and live. Hope that makes sense to you. Hope you find it helpful, and I hope you'll invite me out to do some training with you and your group, wherever that is, and I will see you then.
At the release date of this video, I am stationed with Research Development and Engineering Command, RDECOM, at Aberdeen Proving Ground, Maryland. Because the majority of our personnel are in this area, I spend most of my time here. I do, however, travel to our distant units based on command priorities and budget. I place these videos on YouTube for broad visibility to Army personnel and their families, but I hope the videos will be helpful to others too. If you are assigned to RDECOM and want to request specific topics by video, training on site or by VTC, or confidential counseling on site or by secure webcam, you can contact me at jeffrey.d.dillard.mil@mail.mil.